Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nemeka Onyeka Obiariri. The coming to power of the 47th President of the United States, Donald John Trump, has a lot of implications, especially for a country like Nigeria that depends on the crude fossil fuel for 80% of our forex earnings. 80% of our forex earnings and liquidity that have tanked over the last 9 years. Between 1999 to 2014, Nigeria had relative price stability and FX stability. We didn't have the level of FX and price stability we had between 2015 till now, because most of our crude oil production was not stolen, and most of our crude oil revenues were coming into the Consolidated Federation accounts and to the Central Bank of Nigeria. So basically, we were able to produce, sell crude oil, and then use the crude oil to import things and defend the naira. And but over the last 9 years, it has been a different ballgame. And what is the implication of Donald Trump's coming to power in the US? Recall when President Donald John Trump was sworn in as the 45th US president. US crude oil output then was at about 8.5 million barrels a day. He has always been an apostle of drill, baby drill. He has always been an apostle of utilizing the natural gas, the fossil fuel in the US to achieve energy independence for the United States and ensure price stability within that market. Trump has always believed in low energy prices, has been an apostle of ensuring low energy prices. For the first 4 years he was president, he encouraged fracking, he encouraged exploration, he encouraged everything. In fact, the first thing was to pull out America from the Paris Accord so that nobody would hinder him from what he wanted to do. In 4 years, he was able to move the daily crude oil output of the US from 8.5, 8.6 million barrels a day to 13 million barrels a day. In fact, if you look at records, as of 2011, 2012, the US and Russia was at par in terms of liquefied natural gas production. Today, US is almost 26%, almost 13%, 12% ahead of Russia. And now Trump has come in for the second time and already projected that he's going to inject 3 million more barrels of crude oil per day into the US economy. That simply means by the time he has done 4 years, US will go almost about 16, 17 million barrels of crude every day. What is the implication for Nigeria? The US will be competing with us and as much as other countries. Now, with the way he is going, he may actually find a solution to bring peace between Ukraine and Russia. And when there is peace between Ukraine and Russia, the embargo on Russia's crude will be lifted, and Russia will also push in their own products into the market. And that simply means the crude oil prices in the global market will come down. And with the current level of output about 1.45 million barrels a day, Nigeria economy will be hit negatively. And that also brings us to that's intentional leadership. He came in, met 8.6 million barrels, moved it to 13 million barrels, and now he's planning to move it to 16, 17 million barrels. In our own case, Buhari came in, made 2.3 million barrels. Today, we are doing 1.4 million barrels. That shows you a huge loss. Tinubu came into power, met 1.2 million barrels. Today, it's just about 1.45 million barrels a day. Do we have capacity to ramp up our crude oil output to 2.5 million barrels, 3 million barrels? Yes, we can. We have crude oil reserve of 37.5 billion barrels. Brazil, with 15.5 billion barrels of crude, does about 2.3 billion barrels a day. Output supervised by Petrobras. Petrobras is $171 billion sized, $121 billion annual revenue earnings, $36 billion profit after tax report, and then $42 billion tax and royalties paid to the Brazilian federal government. You can see an intentional government, an intentional National Oil Corporation, unlike NNPC that has been a cesspool of corruption, has been the center of satanic criminality and all manner of things. So basically, for us to adjust with the realities that are unfolding, we need to take practical steps. Inflation is 34%, and you cannot curb inflation jacking up NPR rates. You cannot jack inflation by doing fiscal expansionary spending without, first of all, cutting cost of governance, without firstly closing the huge leakages in the upstream and downstream oil and gas sector to enable us shore up dollar liquidity in the economy. You cannot, and it's very simple. And for us to be able to not to be caught on our words, for us not to have our economy down further, destroyed further, we need to be very intentional. And to be very intentional, we need to take some following steps. The federal government of Nigeria, as a matter of urgency, should unbundle the NNPC. The Federal Ministry of Finance Incorporated, Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources Incorporated, their shareholdings, both of them own NNPC 100%. The federal government must sell down 70% of those holdings in NNPC, 30% to core investors, 40% to Nigerians, list it on the floor of Nigeria Stock Exchange, and jointly on the floor of either the London Stock Exchange or New York Stock Exchange, and do an IPO of $20 million. When you have an NNPC that is run transparently like the Liquefied Natural Gas of Nigeria, that is run efficiently like Petrobras, Nigeria will be able to get in new investments, both in technology, new oil rigs will be introduced, security will be enhanced, because it is no longer going to be a public sector managed things where all manner of corruptions and rub your back and rub my back is at play. Investors will want to see their profits maximized, and the taxes and royalties will be properly calculated and paid. Just like Petrobras, Nigeria will be able to get at least $40 billion from tax and royalties. Nigeria will be able to get at least investment shares from the sale, from our 30% shareholding. Nigerian investors will also get return on investment, and there will be so much employment, and we'll have liquidity to be able to protect the naira. And once you have price and the forex stability, you have security in place, investors will come in. And on the agri sector, we must be very, very intentional. For us to be able to checkmate inflation, we must be very intentional in the agri sector. We've practically shared many expositions on how we can drive massive reforms in that sector in such a way we can interlink it with security, in such a way that we can be productive, in such a way that we can achieve 99% domestic food self-sufficiency, in such a way that we can create over 25 million jobs in that sector within the next 1-2 years, in such a way that we can get nothing less than $250 billion from non-oil sector. We need to be intentional. Yes, Donald Trump may have his flaws. Every human being has his own flaws. You can say he talks anyhow. You can say he's arrogant. You can call him whatever. But in terms of governance, in terms of being intentional, the man is very intentional. You can see everything he said he would do. He's already doing them. And that is what leadership is all about. He has already defined the marker, defined what he wants to do. Americans voted overwhelmingly for him to do what he said he was going to do. And he's already doing it. The first thing he did was to pull out of the climate accord in Paris. And Nigeria has $1.4 trillion gas reserve, $302 billion coal reserve. We are doing nothing to exploit. Do you know there is a linkage between crude output, refinery, and gas production? We have one of the most efficient public-private partnership owned company, LNG. Today, the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas is not producing up to 65% of its nameplate capacity because of paucity of gas supply to it, natural gas supply to it. Any serious country will be thinking, how do we show up crude production? How do we show up refinery? By showing up crude production and refinery, we will get both associated and non-associated gas. We will supply energy. They can even do train 8, 9, and 10. What is so difficult about this? What is difficult about doing the right things? Leadership is not skyrocket science. Leadership is all about being intentional, having the political will, recruiting and surrounding yourself with the smartest of minds, the most creative minds, who will be bold enough to look you in the eye and tell you the truth. Obasanjo was able to achieve the little he achieved because he surrounded himself with people like Obieze that can stand up and address him and disagree with him and tell him what they think is right. This country ticks the right boxes to become a $2 trillion economy in the next 12 years. This economy takes the right boxes to have 98% literacy level. If we decide today to amend the constitution in such a way that will instill a provision that will make it compulsory, 25% of all our revenue earners, borrowings must be invested in education. And we will introduce minimum wage in the education sector. 300, 400,000 from primary to secondary university level. Minimum wage. When you do it, the smartest and the brightest of us will go into education. The greatest key to poverty liberation, the greatest key to solving this security problem, the greatest key to building up Nigeria is for us to be intentional about knowledge acquisition, about learning, about training, about education. Everything in this country is so shrouded in mediocrity. Every aspect of our lives in this country is so painted and covered in mediocrity. Why do we hate excellence and merit in this life? Why do a majority of us hate and loathe excellence and the meritocracy? May God have mercy on us. I know we will not be tired of talking. Look at an intentional president. Look at what he's doing. Look at intentional leadership. Look at his appointments. May God have mercy on us.